The goal of this video is to give you a breakdown of the test and quiz options in Schoology. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a test or a quiz that we've already made. So I'm going to click here with practice test. I'm going to click on settings. This is where I can get to all the settings for my test. You have the option of adding instructions, just like you would on a normal paper test. You could say, be sure to recheck all your work when you're done. Really, whatever you usually say at the beginning of a test, just type it here. It'll show up on the test itself. You have the options here for additional formatting options and switching to HTML. The default position after you've created a test is that submissions are disabled. So if for some reason you create a test, you publish it, and you put it on Schoology and students cannot find it anywhere, this is more than likely the problem here. The fact that it's disabled. You will need to come in as soon as you make the test every time and choose one of these three options. Enable, that means they can always access it from now until whenever. Enable until, this gives it a deadline. Let's say that the 18th is the end of this quarter at 3:15 p.m. So now the students can only access this exam until the last day of the semester at 3:15 p.m. The other option is enable from until. So I want them to access this starting today at 8:15 a.m. until the end of the semester. So now they have access from today until the end of the semester. Once this 12:18 at 3:15 p.m. gets here, they no longer have access to it. We're going to set a time limit. As you can see over here, they all have these little summaries. Every single one of them will. A timed test or quiz may not have any timed questions and vice versa. So you can have timed questions or timed tests. You can have either or here. So let's go ahead and set a time limit, and it's going to give you the option to make it in minutes. We'll set it for 45 minutes. At 45 minutes, their time will be up. You can set the attempt limit from 1 all the way to unlimited. Let's say you give them a few attempts. You also get the option to decide how it's going to grade these attempts. Do you want the highest score of all the attempts, the most recent score of all the attempts, or the average score of all 3 attempts? I like to choose highest score. Randomize order. Choosing yes will randomize the questions so that each student sees questions in a different order, and page breaks will be disabled. So that means you will have no page breaks on any of these tests that you randomize the order. But each student's test will be in a different order. This student's number 1 will not be this student's number 1. So yes, I always randomize my tests. And again, page breaks will be ignored when using randomized order. So we can go ahead and forget about this. But if you don't randomize the order, you can insert page breaks. You can add it here with the page breaks, or you can just have one question per page. I almost always use randomized order, so I never worry about the paging. Language keyboard. Here, if you select Spanish, a browser keyboard with a language-specific accent markers, it'll appear on short answer questions and fill-in-the-blank questions to help them answer the questions correctly. So if you are giving a Spanish test on Schoology, it will help them use the appropriate accent marks. Question review. Can students review and change their answers before submitting the test. I always like to give them this option. Is this test resumable? Can a student start and stop the test and then start it back up again? There are a lot of pros and cons to this option here. That's something I'll let you weigh out. But I usually select no here. And can the students view submissions? Again, in this box over here, it gives us another summary. Allow students to view the results of their test and quiz. If you select no, students will not be able to view the results of their test or quiz or any comments on the questions. This doesn't mean that they won't be able to see their grade. It just means that they won't be able to see which questions they've gotten wrong or right. Or it also means that I won't be able to show them any of the questions on the test again. Once they push submit, they no longer have access to the test. So I usually select no here. Sometimes I'll say yes. Other times, in very unique situations, I'll say yes, they can view it with the correct answers. It also gives you the option for short answer questions. How many blank lines do we want the students to have? Do we want 5? Do we want 10? Depends on how long you want this to be. How many pages do you want for essay questions? Do you want 1.5 pages? 1, 1.25, 1 3/4? All of these are very test specific and will be applied to whatever situation you have for your test. So that is how you change the settings in your Schoology tests and quizzes and how you enable your Schoology tests and quizzes. Just always be sure that you always enable the tests with one of these 3 options here whenever you're ready for the students to have access to the test. If you don't want them to have access to the test, just keep it in the disabled option here, or the enable from until option.